All right, all you CPU miners, welcome to the Rabid Mining YouTube channel. And I took a fast look into Pulsar and went over the optimal settings for the 3900X AMD CPU. Now I started at 3.6 and went all the way up to 4.5 gigahertz with 1 stick of RAM, 2 sticks of RAM, XMP profile on, XMP profile off, throughout each entire settings, and I got down to what is the best settings for greatest hash to watt ratios. Stay tuned, you're not going to want to miss it. I'd like to thank today's sponsor, Crypto.com. Crypto.com is my go-to for actually using my crypto for real-life purchases. With the Crypto.com Visa debit card, it makes it easy to use my mined assets to pay for my power, purchase new GPUs, CPUs, motherboards, hard drives, as well as collect 8% cash back wherever Visa is accepted. If you would like to sell straight to your standard bank account, you can easily request an e-transfer. It usually shows up the following day. On top of all that, Crypto.com also offers trading, simplified DeFi, as well as staking to help you increase the revenue on your crypto assets. Join over 10 million plus users buying and selling 250 plus cryptocurrencies at true cost. By using my affiliate link in the description, you will be granted a $25 funding bonus. Or enter code RABID, R-A-B-I-D, at the sign up, and remember, crypto has its risks. Just like everything else, do your own research. Let's start with our baseline, the Ryzen 9 3900X. It has a base clock of 3.8 gigahertz and it can boost upwards of 4.6. It has a total L3 cache of 64 megabytes, which really doesn't matter when it comes to mining Pulsar itself, but it is a 12-core, 24-thread CPU. As for the rest of the rig I am using here, I'm using X470 MSI Gaming Max motherboard, a Kingston M2 SSD drive, G.Skill Flare CL14 RAM, and an EVGA 750 watt PSU. As most of you know, the Ryzen 3900X has no display out on it, so you do require a GPU. As for testing and all the numbers that I do get, it is headless. That means without the use of using a GPU while mining. For display purposes and only changing settings, I do use a Gigabyte GTX 670 2GB GPU. Yes, it is fairly old. It also has a splitter which goes into a single 8-pin, and also I have my capture card hooked up so that I can record and view my BIOS through my normal monitor. Now, how I actually adjusted my settings and everything was I would shut the rig off, install the GPU, fire the rig back up. I would go into the BIOS, adjust any settings for the next test that I will need. I would then save those settings, turn the rig back off, pull the GPU out, fire the rig back up, and then follow the hash rates in hiveos, as well as look at the watt meter to see what the numbers are looking like. Rinse and repeat throughout every single test. And now let's get to the part where all you guys care about, and that is the actual numbers and hash rate. So we're going to start here with our 3.6 gigahertz, 0.95 volts, and you can see our hash rates here, our power on the full system, our hash to watt ratio, and the temperatures. All the temperatures were done on the stock Wraith Prism cooler. So I'm not going to read out every single number, but I did make it nice and easy for you guys to visualize. You can pause it and check everything out, whenever you want, fast forward, rewind, whatever. But I do have in red the lowest hash to watt ratio, and I have in green the highest hash to watt ratio. And when it comes to CPU mining, GPU mining, or anything in general, it's all about having the highest hash to watt ratio to run as efficient as possible. So here is 3.6 in red. Obviously, red is the worst. You can see that XMP on with 2 sticks of CL14 RAM is actually the worst hash to watt ratio of these 4 settings. And the highest is at 777.34 hash to watt ratio with no XMP profile. That means no RAM overclocks and only a single stick of RAM. And that came in at 64.52 kilohash at only 83 watts full system power. Absolutely amazing. Moving on to 3.7, and we see the trend kind of continue, and it does continue this whole way. So we're at 3.7. Still at 0.95 volts. It was running good and smooth. And again, the exact same factors here. 2 sticks of RAM with CL14 with XMP profile on is your worst hash to watt ratio, and a single stick with no overclocking on that RAM is your best hash to watt ratio, and slightly higher running at 3.7 than at 3.6, which makes sense because we're still running at only 0.95 volts. Here we are at 3.8 gigahertz and we're still at 0.95 volts, which is actually pretty insane. There's no other algorithm where I did not have to start boosting it after 3.7. So we're still running fairly low on the volts, which is making our efficiency looking really good. But again, just like previously, 2 sticks of CL14 with XMP profile on is the worst hash to watt ratio, and the best hash to watt ratio is, again, no XMP profile and only a single stick of RAM. 68.19 kilohash at 86.2 watts full system, and our hash rates are all fairly close together, and the only difference here is you can see overclocking that RAM or even using 2 sticks does use more power. Here we are at 3.9 gigahertz, and this is where I'm kind of scratching my head and I'm like, what is going on here? This is absolutely insane. We are still sitting at 0.95 volts. No reboots. It's mining just fine. I got late after this test here, so I did leave it overnight, and it ran just fine all night. No reboots, nothing. So it was stable, and I was just like, wow, what is going on? Do I have like the OG of CPUs, Silicon Lottery God or something? So I did mark in XMR test here, and I swapped over to XMR to see if it would mine at these exact same settings, and no, it's reboot constantly. It wouldn't load as soon as the flight sheet went up. It would just constantly reboot. So it is this algorithm. This is a really, really low wattage algorithm, and it just likes these low voltages. So that's pretty amazing. So, but again, we can see everything is clear here. 2 sticks, CL14, 732 hash to watt ratio is the absolute lowest. And then we're sitting here with no XMP and a single stick, 798 hash to watt ratio, which is the highest we have hit yet. So far, 3.9 at 0.95 volts is looking like the best setting that we have hit so far at 69.96 kilohash and only 87.6 watts complete system. I apologize in advance. I totally forgot about mentioning, the temperatures, but I'm sure you guys were keeping an eye on that and watching it. We are sitting only at 48 still at 3.9, started at 44, and, we're barely getting high. So this stock cooler is way within reason, definitely keeping this CPU cold. Now moving on to 4 gigahertz, I did have to start pumping up that voltage. Not much, we're sitting at 1 volt now, but I do mention all the time in past videos and everything, once you start going over that base clock and into the boost clock here, you're going to start running less and less efficient. And the higher you go, obviously, the less efficient it comes. So here we are, we're sitting here. Same thing as usual. We're following the same trend here. 2 sticks, CL14 is the worst with XMP profile on, 687 hash to watt ratio. Well, no XMP and only a single stick is sitting at 742.75 hash to watt ratio. So this is pretty much the same thing that's going to play out in terms of settings. 2 sticks with XMP profile on, so overclocking your RAM is the worst way to go about it. And I find this on the majority of the CPU mining coins. There's some that it does benefit, but not very many of them. And again, here we have the single stick racking in. Same thing for Raptoreum, coming in on top on the highest efficiency. And we're pulling 71.75 kilohash at 96.6 watts. Again, 742 hash to watt ratio. Here we are, 4.1, and I did have to increase the voltage slightly again, 1.05 volts. And again, same thing's playing out. 2 sticks of CL14 RAM is the worst, well overclocked, and a single stick with no RAM overclocking is the most efficient. Our temperature is coming up a little bit, currently sitting at 54 degrees. And now it's a growing thing. The higher you're going, the less efficient it comes. But I do want to bring something forward. You can see we started hitting at 4.5, I was up to 70 degrees. We were starting to get warm. The fans, the motherboard was warming up, and everything was, starting to spin fairly fast. But look at this. I do know a lot of you guys run at 4.2 to 4.4 on the majority on a lot of coins. And I keep telling you guys, you know what? Run more efficient. It's not worth running that high. And example right here, 4.4 with 2 sticks of RAM and overclock XMP profile on is what a lot of you guys are using. 145.6 watts here for 78.93 kilohash. That is only 542 hash to watt ratios. But again, 145 watts when running the most efficient up here, we're sitting at like 93 watts here, 86 watts actually running the most efficient. So, you know, there's a big power difference and it adds up throughout all your rigs as you keep on going. And so after all that, there's one final test I did want to do, and I wanted to test CL16 RAM. So I just went back to the highest efficiency settings, and that was that 3.9 at 0.95 volts. And here you can see the difference between CL16 and CL14 RAM well on Pulsar, and they're pretty close. There's not much a difference. The only real difference between the two RAM is the price. CL14 RAM, depending where you live, could potentially be twice as expensive as CL16. So when it comes to mining Pulsar as well as Raptoreum and a few other coins, you do not need to opt for the more expensive CL14 RAM. You can get away just fine with CL16. You can see here, look at the hash to watt ratios, 794 to 798, like 69.96 kilohash versus the exact same hash rate. So they're hashing exactly the same. The CL16 was slightly more watts, not by much, less than a watt, like 0.4 of a watt here, 0.5, but not very much whatsoever. So they are very, very close and only single sticks. That means a pack of two could power 2 rigs worth of RAM. So, you know, keep that an eye, budget friendly, everything like that. I know gamers talked RAM is most important and, you know, all these other things, but on a lot of these coins, single sticks and CL14 and 15 doesn't really matter too much. There are the odd coin like XMR. It does matter a little bit more, but still, depending where you're from, CL16 may just be the better ROI value because it's so much cheaper than opting in for that better, more expensive CL14 RAM. There we have it, guys. So that sums up this video. Those are the hash rates for Pulsar on a Ryzen 9 3900X CPU. Now remember, you don't need a 3000 series. You can easily go out and get a 5000 series. The scalpers literally bought them all up and they're overselling the 3000 series. So go out and get the 5000 series. They are newer and, you know, based on the market, they're also cheaper. So go for it. Get the 5000 series. You don't need a 3900X. Get the 5900X. Remember, sometime this year, potentially the 7900Xs may be coming out, which I do see may have huge performance gains on a coin like Haven, for example. But to be continued. We'll find out more as more information comes out on those. But thank you for watching this video, everyone. I will see you on the next one. Rabid out. Thank you for watching my video. And if you haven't seen one of these, be sure to check them out. And if you already seen them, maybe you missed something, might have to watch it one more time. And if you just let it play in the background, that's all right as well. I do try to live stream every weekend as well as every couple days during the week. So be sure to be subscribed so you don't miss that. As always, have a great day.